So, did you pass? Those were the first words out of my wife's mouth. Not, what the hell is going on? Not, Chloe, why are you in your underwear? Just, did you pass? She was standing in the doorway of our living room, arms crossed, with this weirdly expectant look on her face. And next to me, on the couch where she'd just tried to put her tongue down my throat, her best friend Chloe started to laugh. A smug, triumphant little laugh. My brain just short-circuited. I felt the blood drain from my face as I looked from my wife, Jenna, to her half-naked best friend, and back again. It was like walking into a surprise party. Only the surprise was that your entire life was a lie. And let me tell you, the story of how I ended up in that nightmare scenario is way crazier than you can possibly imagine. It all started 2 months ago with a single, fateful phone call. Let's rewind. Me and Jenna, we were solid. Or so I thought. We'd been married for 5 years, had a nice little house in the suburbs, 2 dogs, the whole 9 yards. We were that couple, you know? The ones whose friends say are goals. Jenna is smart, funny, beautiful. I honestly thought I'd won the lottery. The only, and I mean only, slightly weird thing in our relationship was her best friend, Chloe. Chloe and Jenna were attached at the hip since kindergarten. They had that kind of intense, codependent friendship that's a little strange to see in 30-year-old women. They spoke in their own secret language, finished each other's sentences, the whole bit. I'd always been nice to Chloe, for Jenna's sake. Did I love her? No. She had this way of looking at you like she was dissecting you, always making these little backhanded compliments. Like, oh, that shirt is so brave, Mark. Or, it's so cute how you try to help Jenna with the gardening. I always just chalked it up to her having a weird personality and left it at that. I was the good husband, you know, patient and understanding. So, 2 months ago, the phone rings. It's Jenna, and she's hysterical. Chloe's life had apparently imploded. In the span of 24 hours, she'd gotten fired from her job for, and I quote, a personality clash with her boss, and then her landlord had decided to sell the apartment she was renting. She was, in effect, jobless and homeless. Before I could even process the news, Jenna dropped the bomb. I told her she could stay with us, of course, in the guest room, just for a few weeks until she gets back on her feet. She didn't ask me. She told me. That should have been my first red flag, right there. But I saw how upset Jenna was, and I wanted to be the supportive husband. I mean, what was I going to say? No, your lifelong best friend who is currently crying on a street corner has to sleep in a box because I find her vaguely annoying. So I said yes. I said, of course, honey. We'll help her out. It was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. The first week was fine. Awkward, but fine. Chloe was quiet, stayed in her room a lot, and seemed genuinely grateful. Jenna was thrilled to have her bestie around 24/7. They'd whisper and giggle on the couch like they were at a sleepover. I mostly just worked in my home office and tried to stay out of the way. I figured, okay, a few weeks of this, I can handle it. Then things started to get weird. The first little incident happened about 10 days in. I came downstairs to get a glass of water late one night. Jenna was already asleep. And there's Chloe, in the kitchen, wearing one of Jenna's silk robes. One of the short ones. And let me tell you, it was not leaving a lot to the imagination. Oh, hey Mark, she said a little too brightly. Couldn't sleep. I just nodded, trying not to look anywhere but at her face. Yeah, me neither. Just getting some water. All my PJs are in the wash, she said with a little shrug, which made the robe fall open just a little bit. Hope Jenna doesn't mind me borrowing this. My gut just clenched. It felt off. Performative. I mumbled something like, I'm sure it's fine, got my water, and basically ran back upstairs. The next morning, I mentioned it to Jenna. I tried to be casual. Hey, saw Chloe last night. She was wearing your good robe. Jenna just laughed. She literally laughed in my face. Oh my God, are you serious? That's just Chloe. We've shared clothes our whole lives. Don't be so weird about it. She made me feel like I was the creep. Like I was the one sexualizing the situation. So I dropped it. I told myself I was overthinking it. But that was just the beginning. The little pokes started to become shoves. Chloe's job search consisted of her sitting on our couch in yoga pants all day, scrolling through her phone. But she developed a new hobby, cornering me when Jenna wasn't around. It started with comments. I'd be making coffee in the morning, and she'd come up behind me and say, you smell good. I'd be heading out for a run, and she'd be at the door, looking me up and down. Wow, Jenna is a lucky, lucky woman. Every time, it was delivered with this wide-eyed innocence, So if I called her on it, I'd be the bad guy. It was psychological warfare, man. I was starting to feel like a prisoner in my own home. I dreaded leaving my office. The vibe in the house had gone from a happy home to a tense, weird triangle. I tried to talk to Jenna again. This time, I was more direct. We were in bed, lights out. Honey, I said, I'm not comfortable with how Chloe is acting around me. She's being flirty. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Jenna sat bolt upright. I cannot believe you, she said, her voice like ice. She has lost everything. She is vulnerable and scared, and you're accusing her of hitting on you? What is your problem? Is your ego that massive that you think every woman wants you? My blood was boiling. It wasn't even about Chloe anymore. It was about the fact that my wife was taking the word of her friend over her own husband, without even a moment of consideration. She was painting me as some kind of predatory egomaniac. This has nothing to do with my ego, Jenna, I said, trying to keep my voice even. It has to do with my comfort in my own damn house. Well, maybe you should try to make her feel a little more welcome. Then she wouldn't be so awkward around you, she snapped, before rolling over and facing the wall. And that was it. Conversation over. The enabler had spoken. I was completely on my own. The escalation went into overdrive after that. It was like Jenna defending her gave Chloe a green light. The accidental touches in the hallway became less accidental. She'd put her hand on my arm when she talked to me, and leave it there just a little too long. She started making dinner for just the two of us on nights she knew Jenna would be home late from her yoga class. She'd light candles and everything. It was insane. I always made an excuse and ate in my office. I was losing my mind. I felt this cold, hollow feeling in my chest. This wasn't just Chloe being a problem anymore. My marriage was cracking, and my wife was holding the hammer. She was either completely blind or, and this thought chilled me to the bone, she was willfully ignoring it. Then came the breaking point. The point of no return. Jenna had a work dinner one Friday night. A big, important one she'd been talking about for weeks. Chloe knew about it, obviously. I planned to just lock myself in my office, order a pizza, and pretend she didn't exist. Around 8 p.m., I came out to grab a beer. Chloe was on the couch, watching a movie. She was wearing a tiny pair of shorts and a tank top that was basically just a suggestion of a shirt. Hey you, she purred. Come sit. I'm lonely. No thanks, I've got work to do, I said, not even looking at her. Oh, come on, she said, patting the cushion next to her. Just for a little bit. I poured you a glass of wine. I looked over at the coffee table. There were 2 glasses of red wine. My stomach turned. I said, Chloe, I'm not going to say this again. Leave me alone. I turned to walk away, and that's when she said it. The words that made everything click into place. You know, she said, her voice low and conspiratorial. Jenna talks about you guys. She says the spark is gone. She says you don't even really, connect anymore. She's not happy, Mark. At that moment, it wasn't even anger I felt. It was this sudden, terrifying clarity. This was a sabotage mission. She was actively trying to destroy my marriage. I just stared at her. You have no idea what you're talking about, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. She stood up and walked towards me, swaying her hips. She was about a foot away when she reached out and ran a finger down my chest. But I could make you happy, she whispered. I recoiled like I'd been burned. Get away from me, I snarled. You're pathetic. I went straight to my office and locked the door. My hands were shaking. I wasn't just angry now, I was scared. I had to get her out of the house. But how? Jenna wouldn't believe me. She'd just say I was lying, that I was trying to get rid of her poor, homeless friend. I needed proof. Irrefutable proof. And that's when I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I have a couple of small security cameras for the house. The next day, while Chloe and Jenna were out shopping, I took one and set it up on the bookshelf in the living room. It had a perfect view of the couch. It felt slimy. It felt like a violation of privacy. But I felt like my whole life was on the line. I had to protect myself. The next week was tense. I avoided Chloe like the plague. Then, on Thursday, Jenna came home from work and announced she had to go back to the office. My boss just called. There's a huge deadline tomorrow. I've got to pull an all-nighter, she said, grabbing her laptop bag. She gave me a quick kiss. Don't wait up. Chloe, be good, she called out, and then she was gone. My heart started pounding. This was it. The house was quiet for about an hour. And then, the door to my office opened. It was Chloe. She was wearing a ridiculously slinky, black lingerie set. In her hands, She held 2 glasses of wine. Surprise, she said, with a smirk. I just stayed in my chair, staring at her. I didn't say a word. The camera in the living room was useless if she did this in here. I had to get her out there. If we're going to talk, we're going to do it in the living room, I said, my voice flat. Her smirk widened. I like that idea. We walked into the living room. I sat in the armchair, as far away from the couch as possible. She handed me a glass of wine, which I set on the table, untouched. She curled up on the couch, facing me. It was all happening right in the camera's line of sight. Perfect. You work too hard, she said, taking a sip of wine. Jenna doesn't appreciate you. She's always so busy with work, with yoga, with her friends. She doesn't see the amazing man right in front of her. I just stared. Let her talk. Let her dig her own grave. But I see you, Mark, she said, putting her glass down. She uncurled from the couch and slowly, deliberately, knelt on the floor in front of my chair. She placed her hands on my knees. I see you, and I want you. I have for a long time. She leaned in, her eyes closing. She was going to kiss me. This was the moment of truth. Get off me, I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of disgust and adrenaline. I stood up so fast the armchair almost tipped over. Get out of this house. Right now? I'm not kidding, Chloe. Pack your bags and get out. And that's when it happened. The front door clicked open, and Jenna walked in. She didn't look shocked. She didn't look betrayed. She just looked at me, her head tilted, a weird little smile on her lips. And that's when she said it. The question that blew my world apart. So, did you pass? My brain just stopped. Chloe, still kneeling on the floor, looked up at Jenna and started to laugh. I swear to God, she laughed. I looked from my wife's smiling face to her best friend's smug one. The air left my lungs. Pass what? I managed to choke out. My loyalty test, silly, Jenna said, walking further into the room. She sounded like she was talking about the weather. Chloe and I were talking. My ex cheated on me, you know? I've always been so scared it would happen again. I had to know, for sure, that you were solid, that I could trust you completely. So we came up with this little plan. She came over and tried to hug me. And you passed. I'm so proud of you. I pushed her away, gently at first, then harder. I started to laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who has just seen The Matrix. The sound of my own sanity cracking. You're insane, I said, the laughter turning into something that sounded more like a sob. You are both completely and utterly insane. Jenna's smile faltered. What? Don't be so dramatic. It was just a test. A game. Chloe got up from the floor. Yeah, Mark. Lighten up. You proved you're a good husband. We should be celebrating. I just shook my head, a real smile, a bitter one, finally spreading across my face. I walked over to the bookshelf, reached behind a photo of me and Jenna on our wedding day, and pulled out the little black security camera. I held it up for them to see. Their faces froze. Well, you know what's funny? I said, unplugging the SD card. You both passed a test tonight, too. It's called the MIA Manipulative, Toxic, Certifiably Crazy Person test. And you both passed with flying colors. Congratulations. I held up the little memory card. I've got it all right here. The flirting, the touching, the little seduction attempt in your lingerie, Chloe. And my favorite part? The big reveal. Your whole sick little confession. Jenna's face was ashen. Chloe looked like she was going to be sick. Now, I said, my voice dropping to a dead calm that scared even me. You are both going to get out of my house. Jenna, pack a bag. You can stay with your soulmate. Your stuff will be in boxes on the lawn tomorrow. We're done. The screaming started then. The denials. You're overreacting, and that it was for us, and that you can't do this. I just stood there and let them burn themselves out. When they were done, I pointed to the door. Get out, or I'm calling the police and showing them this video. They left. The aftermath was a hurricane of bull. Texts, voicemails, emails from Jenna, her parents, our mutual friends, all telling me I was a monster for kicking my insecure wife out over a silly misunderstanding. Apparently, their version of the story was that Chloe had a crush on me, came onto me, and I flipped out and threw them both out on the street. They conveniently left out the loyalty test part. So I did what I had to do. I emailed the video file to her parents. And just for good measure, I sent it to her 2 loudest, most judgmental friends who had been spamming my phone. The calls and texts stopped immediately. Funny how that works. I filed for divorce the next day. Jenna tried to fight it, But when my lawyer mentioned the video evidence of psychological abuse and conspiracy to inflict emotional distress, she signed the papers pretty damn quick. She moved back in with her parents, completely disgraced. Chloe, I heard, moved to another state. Good riddance. It's been 6 months. The house is quiet now. The divorce is final. Sometimes I sit in the living room and stare at that bookshelf and I can't believe any of it was real. I lost my wife, my marriage, my best friend. But then I realize she wasn't my best friend. And that marriage was a lie. I wasn't a husband to her. I was a variable in an experiment. And you know what? My life is better without that. I'd rather be alone and sane than in a relationship that requires me to pass a sick, twisted test.